Great cities are defined by their great buildings, and Melbourne is no exception. From glorious domes to stately columns and a majestic station. Now, another structure has been deemed worthy.
It actually has this sense of poetry and sense of movement, sense of dynamic. And then on top of that, it has a beautiful character to it in terms of the texture. So it has this sense of demonstration of how it's actually made, of how it's been put together.
That sense of poetry and dynamism is describing this, the hulking 7-storey Cardigan House. The latest car park to receive heritage protection in Melbourne.
Why don't we go and check out one of these car parks?
Why don't we? That'd be great.
At this architectural office, that decision has been welcomed. David Wagner believes the Cardigan House car park is worth protecting.
It actually is an example of a brutalist building that we only have a handful of in Melbourne, so it's great to actually show what that style of architecture, how it works.
Wagner is headed here to another car park from the brutalist architectural style that's also heritage protected. Many walk by the total car park and take no notice. David Wagner thinks that's a mistake.
They need to stand back and just look at the poetry of it, because more often than not, a brutalist building is quite poetic. It has really strong material, construction qualities, and actually is very legible. So it's something where you can sit back, have a cappuccino, and actually read how the building's put together, how it works, and what it's doing.
After all, this isn't just a car park. It's a mid-60s tribute to brutalism in Japan.
The concrete aspect to it is actually quite lovely. It has quite an interesting dynamic, not dissimilar to buildings you might find in the Japanese brutalist period of 1950s.
With its exposed surfaces and emphasis on mass, brutalism emerged after the Second World War. It is hardly universally beloved.
Can you imagine the French doing this sort of thing in Paris? Look at the National Theatre. It seems like a clever way of building a nuclear power station in the middle of London without anyone objecting.
Perhaps it's not surprising when this latest brutalist car park was recommended for heritage protection, it attracted attention.
Where the committee makes a decision on the basis of fewer than 6.
The City of Melbourne Council eventually endorsed a heritage overlay, which would still allow future redevelopment.
We're not locking it and sealing it away and keeping that car park there forever. This is just about heritage and respecting heritage.
The final decision's now in the hands of the State Planning Minister, whether Cardigan House joins Melbourne's other heritage car parks, including this one at Melbourne University, which famously made an appearance in the 1979 classic Mad Max. It's all just a little bit much for Katie Roberts-Hall. She's a local, living close to buildings like this. She's not keen on heritage protection for this car park, not too far away.
There's pros and cons to heritage protection, and I think that there's a lot of buildings where the benefit outweighs the costs, but I think in this case it doesn't.
Melbourne's struggles with heritage protection have even inspired a film. For 3 decades, from the 1950s, building after building was demolished.
But Melbourne is so very close to absolute annihilation. It is so very nearly dull beyond belief.
Katie Roberts-Hall understands the sensitivities, but she argues this history isn't worth preserving.
Do you ever think, when all is said and done, this is really just a parking garage?
Yes. The main objection to heritage protection is the use of the land as a parking garage. And I know there's a lot of architectural merit to it, but I just can't get over that the land use should be better used for basically any other purpose rather than parking.
But David Wagner argues these are more than just parking garages. They are part of our architectural history.
It's whether it's Gothic, it's Romanesque, it's modern, it's early 20th century or contemporary. actually having buildings that are representative of each time is really important to actually provide a richness and a strength to the international city of Melbourne.